Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game where you make the cards and I start the finger guns too early. But you can never have enough finger guns, my friends. We're gonna do a short episode today, but we are gonna do an episode. We're sorry, I've been dealing with some stuff in my personal life recently that's been making things hard, but we are back, folks. We're back, and we're gonna give you something. We promise. We'll give you a little treat. I am joined today only by my faithful co-host Grief.
Howdy, folks.
We call him that because he is with us to the bitter end. And now let's jump straight into the accepted submissions. So these cards are in the game. You can add them to your decks, but you can only play those decks in a mode called Fresh. Every month, cards that have been in Fresh for at least a week will rotate in, and you'll be able to play them in decks in like multiplayer. But I'm a single player guy, so I get to play with these cards already. The Interworld Messenger is a 3-drop mind 1/4 Harpy from Black Rift with flying, and create a copy of a random card from your deck. Repeat if this is non-native. Non-native means it didn't start in your deck. So I thought this was really cool. I really liked JTAD's idea of doing Harpies in Black Rift, and this design also really seemed to work well. This started from the Portal Hub arts, and then JTAD wanted to experiment with, he drew a Harpy in the art, and he was like, oh, let's make the Harpy card. And I really liked it. The color scheme is a little muted for my taste. I like the very vibrant, like makes you, or you know, just the really vibrant purples and blues, but it still works. It still works. And so, I mean, 3-drop 1/4 flyer that also has a chance to basically draw you a card, maybe draw you two. What do you think of this, Grief?
I think it's fine, considering the fact, okay, it fits into one attack matter stuff. It's a flyer, so it has input evasion, and it is kind of pseudo card advantage, so it replaces itself. Also, it is a pseudo tutor. We already have these kinds of cards that scout or similar things from your deck, or the cards from your deck. So this is just kind of random +1 consistency for your deck. The very interesting part is like the non-native aspect of it, because if you're a deck that actually puts many different tokens into your deck, then sure, you can repeat the effect. The thing is, like, does the effect go on and on and on whenever you draw another non-native card?
Mm-hmm.
If so, this can, if you're feeling lucky, go on until you fill your entire hand or hit the 13 mark.
No, it's repeat if Interworld is non-native. So if you can get a non-native Interworld by copying it, then you'll draw two.
Okay.
Well, draw two, create 2 copies of it.
Well then, in that case, it's still a fine card.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing is we do with stuff like Bookkeeper that can give you a chance to use this for advantage. There's stuff that can leverage this, but it's a lot less consistent than that. That would be a cool card.
Yeah, I kind of got excited for no reason.
Hey, you know, that could be a card too. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah. Overall, neat card. I really like it. This could also slot in like Dunewalkers, maybe just a little bit of evasion and card advantage.
Maybe you're another copy of Anansi. Who knows?
Yeah. The Floral Painter is a 2-drop mind 1/3 Dream Ooze from Zuriel, the Dream Zoo. With entrance and active, replace a card in hand with a Space Petal Flower. The Space Petal Flower is a figment plant with, when this leaves your hand, draw a card and silence this.
Hashtag fixed.
Oh yeah. It was currently reading as a comment.
By the way, I wouldn't have anything against this card actually existing in the card pool, because it's a very cool token, and if it would be main deck, that actually leaves space for a lot of cool interactions as well.
Well, yeah. The notable thing to main deck it in would probably be Eureka Turbo, that I've been playing around with. There's probably a bunch of other things. You basically play it like a Spectre's card, where it's like a discard sort of thing.
Not only that, specifically leaving your hand. So reshuffling
Yeah.
would also trigger it. But
Yeah, the problem
at
with
that point,
reshuffling though is like if you're doing like door to a familiar place, you have a dead card in your hand. If you have door to elsewhere, then you have a dead card coming up later.
a door to a familiar place would redraw the card and draw you another card.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, but you're right. And you'd be left with the silenced one. So yeah,
exactly.
Zuriel is doing some interesting stuff. I like I said, I really, if there's one thing I will always commend Magneter on, the aesthetic sense with this realm is on point. It is just weird and goofy, and I just like it. It excites me. It brings out a little bit of a kid in me, and I really like that. The figments are doing their thing, being figments, and this one also has the gimmick where you can burn the active a couple times and just keep replacing itself and netting card advantage off of it, or you can turn a token into one of these and then do that. Yep. Grief, what do you think of this?
I love every aspect about this card. It's such a cute design. It's so good. It basically puts this already puts Zuriel from the hodgepodge potential that it had with the last card that got in, with the dude that created the spheres, onto the map of being an actually very decent, mechanically sound realm.
Mm-hmm.
Because this token alone.
Yeah, this does a lot with the mechanics and establishing what the mechanics are in a very concrete way, and I really like that. And it's starting to get the wheels turning on actually like developing this into something. The pops up. Okay, these are the accepted active submissions. These are not in the game yet, but if you want them to be in the game, you got to go on https://www.reddit.com, and then you just find whatever cards you're looking at, and then there's a little red triangle or a triangle on the side that goes up, and you take the up triangle and you click on that, and that makes it more likely for the card to get in. Pop Tsar is a 4-drop strength 4/1 robot bard from Concierta with regenerate and start a turn, create an ethereal Eyes on Me. It has +1 HP for each song in your graveyard, and rage reduce the cost of songs in hand by 1. Eyes on Me is a song that causes target enemy to duel an ally bard. I do think this is really interesting that it creates and then gives it ethereal, because I don't, that should be permanent, right? So it's like Eyes on Me could have just had ethereal, but whatever. Maybe we can have another thing that creates this song later on. And this has a way to like consistently gain HP through your songs and cause a lot of sort of a disco floor, not a barroom brawl, but maybe like a discotheque brawl. Grief, what do you think of this?
Well, you know rock festivals when they start pushing people?
Yeah, the mosh pits.
The mosh pits, which are cool for the most part if everyone is willing. And even metalheads, as hardcore as they can be, say don't do mosh pits with people that aren't into it. Pop Tsar is probably probably a metalhead in disguise. Wait a second, I think, is this a Zombieland Saga reference with a pop idol group that actually sings metal songs?
No. Here's my take on it, Grief. It doesn't make you fight the people in the crowd, mind you. It makes you fight other bards. So my interpretation is just her singing is so horrible you want to punch her in the
face. You want to punch her in the face.
Eyes on me! Fight me, dude!
Problem is she fucking punches right back. Like, I love this card. I was kind of surprised that this is a JTAD design. Nothing against JTAD, but for the most part, when I occasionally hover over Card Lab and see cards designed by JTAD, I always get a feeling like, oh yeah, this is not there yet. And that was with the first iteration of Pop Tsar.
I think
how she was called. Okay, but yeah, The ethereal makes sense because we have bards that recur, like crash a lot, so recur like songs and that. Like that's cool. So while also she increases the count of her own health points by the amount of songs that you play, and she increases it by herself due to eyes on me, which is cool. Regenerate makes her survive the mosh pit when she actually goes when she jumps into the crowd. It goes kind of holy hell. And the rage effect, like holy shit, this is the reason why you play a bard song deck. And I love it for it. And I want to play a KM variant because she's strength, so she even can get +1/+1 and duelist.
Yeah, I do think we need to see. I think mostly the situation in Concerta is mind and spirit, right?
No, it's actually more all over the place, and that's
Okay,
why.
well, that's good.
Exactly, and that's why I want to play. That's why I really want to play a KM deck with
yeah.
bard songs, where you can just put the best of both worlds into it, where you can play the action heavy songs, where you can actually get the multi affinities in. So I've been ranting about this card ad nauseum. I just love everything about this design.
Yeah, great job, JTAD. It's at 11, so I'm excited to see it in the collection. The Warfare Simulator is an 8-cost neutral action from Tutela, with replace all allies with random ones that cost at least 5. So this is one of 2 designs that were involved some form of like random chaos, like sort of a what was it? Grief had his list of things I refuse to upvote from the DC. And it included things like board wipes, stereotypical stuff you tend to see at high costs.
Yeah, what was it? My bingo board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so some people took that as a challenge, and I'm glad to see that. And then we saw some cool designs out of this. And a lot of people decided to go with the idea of sort of a warp world type situation. And you can do a lot more with that in a digital card game. And one of the things you can do is something like this. At least 5 is such an interesting way to do this, because this makes this a win con in like token spam aggro. You dump out a bunch of units that are barely worth putting on the board. They need to survive 1 turn, hold a count, Warfare Simulator. All of a sudden, you're bursting out with your, I don't know what it is, but it's going to be big. This could get very high rolly for a random card because there's such a big gap between 5 and Kadar. But, I mean, that's part of the fun, right? And I think that plays into that sense of the fun very neatly. Also plays into your Portal Way hype, although it's a little late for that. Some other stuff there. Your Vanishing Man and your Bodyguard stuff. Grief, what do you think of this?
This is such a clean design because, first of all, technically this is also on the bingo board. Create a bunch of dudes. But I said I'm only going to download, drastically speaking, everything that hits like 2 aspects of the bingo board is like downvotable for me. But as I said, some people actually took up the challenge and tried to think outside the box, and this is ore without its weakness of having to be a strong build around where you happen to play like 8 bricks and hate to see every damn card that you want to pull off ore, because you can play the ore deck, which is token creation heavy, and play normal units as well, while getting all the payoffs of Warfare Simulator. That you, what would be the downside? That you don't really get too much control on what your outcome is, but you don't care what the outcome is if you have 10 units that you're, and if you have 10 1/1 units or flame tokens or whatever that your Permal deck will actually play it back then when it came to or more, you now just put 10 tokens on, activate this card. Nice. Look at my board, try to out it.
Yeah, I really do like designs like this. I mean, this is the kind of thing I wanted to see in like Black Rift. So this helps non-natives a lot, around a lot by just giving you a whole bunch of those too as well. And I would appreciate seeing this card get in because it would show maybe that that attitudes have warmed a little bit toward more of this like random stuff. Because we've only been seeing like some intermittent designs sometimes with like shift and stuff, and so I love designs like this, and I like that Tutela is doing this kind of stuff. So we don't know what it's at right now because it just got up, but we will see. The Carapace Collector is a 3-drop strength, 2/4 insect gunslinger from Carapace with Duelist and start a turn and Slay Herald 1. So neat stuff here. You get a trigger to start a turn, you get a trigger on Slay, and you get a little bit of a Duelist. I like heralds that give you a lot of means to consistently do smaller heralds, because that lets you do sort of this more mid-range oriented value plan where you're getting a little, my units are just a little bit better than the curve, and that's what's going to push me through, right? Art's stylish as always. I really do love the sort of the using the it's called like the sinister diagonal with the pose with him like hanging on that. Really neat. Grief, what do you think of this?
Well, it's a solid design. It's basically just a good stuff duelist that's putting Herald back on the menu, because most of the time, back in the day, Herald was a little bit better, even though Herald is one of the worst keywords in the game. With the meme being Herald is an inherently weak mechanic. Considering, yeah, sure, you have to draw the cards, you have to actually benefit from the step ups, they have to actually be often enough, and the units have to that you hit actually be worthwhile bodies that want to participate in combat, and so on and so forth. So this is just kind of the okay continuous benefits that you just get from it, and it either piles up on one unit, and since you're playing probably a duelist deck, this is just always a benefit to you, because A, it makes your duelists more survivable, and B, they can hit harder.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, really neat, really clean common. I really like this design despite its simplicity. It's sitting at 4, so we will see. I mean, it's doing better than something like, you know, some of the other cards in there, like my beloved chickens that nobody appreciates.
Or like Rhag Shade, which is funny enough at 1.
Yeah, so the Rhag Shade is a 1-drop strength, 1/1 dragon Lizabo demon specter with agile and entrance. If you only have strength cards in hand, take 1 damage and draw a card. If not, take 1 damage twice and draw 2, then discard 2 cards instead. This is interesting because it's definitely a big pain procer, because you get the double pain proc. I think this is a bit too much, and I think recently Corn's been a little on, especially on a 1/1. Oh, it's only an entrance, so you only get that proc once. But yeah, even just like, could I seriously see running this in some nonsense deck like Gifts Traps? Maybe, because a 2-drop, take 2 damage, draw 2, discard 2, have a chance to loop into my gifts is not bad. Like, but if you are running this on affinity, this can give you on affinity without all strength cards, then this netting you a bunch of like hand filter can be pretty powerful. I think this could work. I don't think this can work at this stats and cost. Grief, what do you think?
This thing has one problem alone. It is a unit.
That is also weird, yeah.
Not that it is weird, like this is too much on one particular unit that you can. I know, RCC, Rose Court, Courier is very strong, slightly overtuned, good stuff tutor card that can get you this dude.
You also get Summoner.
So you put a query out, you paint it yourself, you probably have only red cards in hand, find this card. Now this thing also has, funny enough, life bond. So the burn damage is not a downside anymore. It can attack in the same turn it comes in and gets you probably +2 card advantage. Or it goes neutral. Basically, it's +1 via RCC. Can go +2, or go just for +1 because you allow it to draw 2 cards and then discard 2, or go +3 if those of the discarded cards even do something else. This card does way too much for a cheap body that is a 1/1 with agile.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the other thing I was
extremely-
gonna say is even in the worst case scenario, this is a 1/1 agile for Heldim.
Yeah, that draws you a card. At least draws you a card. Sorry. At least draws you 2 cards and discards 2 cards, which is filtering, and at best of the time even draws you a card. But funny enough, you will probably want to get the filter effect off.
Yeah, the way this game works and what the card supports have, you can run like in Eureka Turbo, you run Phantom of the Opera off Affinity. You run if you're doing a legacy build, you might do the other guy who just needs to be discarded and draws you a card. Yeah, this is just too much.
The problem with this card is I really have a love-hate relationship with this card because I love every part about it because it's such a powerful, good card. And the legacy/vintage player in me loves this shit. The problem is, this is again a huge step in power creep, and I don't really have anything against power creep in particular, even in collective. But this has also kind of an identity crisis being a rag, which becomes better if you actually don't play a mono red deck.
Yeah.
Because of the card filtering. Like, I will happily play this on Spectres.
Yeah. Making a rag card that's better off Affinity is a bad idea. I mean, you missed the point at that point, right? You just missed the train entirely.
Like, nothing against Corn, but this is an extremely good card that is very weirdly designed.
Maybe see this is like a 2-drop action. Cut the agile, cut the stat block.
Yeah, basically, if this is an action, this is better. But it still has the rag problem. Where it's better off. Technically, we could
maybe reflavoring?
Exactly, and that's what I wanted to come towards next. We could technically reflavor this card into a Spirit Lizardtap card and care about either Lizabos or Spirit cards. And at that point, with the Spirit card aspect towards it, or if you have if all cards in your hand are Lizabos, draw 2, discard 2. Or if all cards in your hand are a Spirit, you draw a card. Sorry, you discard. You draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. Otherwise, you draw a card. Like, this is at that point, this would be just a 1-cost draw 1, which is good. But if you have like all Spirits or Lizabo, it's even better. Like, at that point, that would make sense. Or give it the same treatment as I just said, flip the outcomes and make it a 1-cost or 2-cost action.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Moving on. The Horrific Prophecy is a 1-drop neutral action from Alter Chrona with fast and give 10 random cards in the opponent's deck Jinx. The Jinx is when a card with Jinx is drawn, its owner takes 1 damage from the opponent, and this ability gets removed. So, I think this is interesting because this provides... I'm conflicted. because I've actually played around with gifts traps. I know Bonk plays around with gifts traps. I feel like this is kind of saturated and kind of already going in a specific direction. So I don't know how this would really fare in the sort of the standard idea, especially because this kind of doesn't work with some of these, because I mean, a lot of that is relying on you drawing tokens. It still plays nicely into that. But this is like 10 damage on a really, really slow clock. It's an interesting idea, but it's, in my opinion, it seems like it's an interesting idea for a different time. And I'd love to hear what Grief has to say on this.
Have you ever played Runeterra?
I have not.
Because this mechanic is a deck archetype in Runeterra.
Oh,
And
does it belong to
traps-
Jinx?
No.
Oh, that would have been worse.
It belongs to Teemo.
I see. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Because he actually puts poisonous mushroom tokens or counters on cards your opponent draws, and they stack.
Yeah.
Which this can do too.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that if you can actually pull off multiple prophecies or cards similar with the mechanic of Jinx, which are already posted by Doggo, you can draw a trap that deals damage to you. Also, because you freaking drew it, you as the player deal now 5 to 10 damage to your opponent's face as well. Because this card seems like it actually so no, when a card with Jinx is drawn, its owner takes one. Yeah, this actually makes you as a player hit the opponent, which is funny.
Yeah.
Meaning it actually circumvents specific card triggers. So it like if the unit has life bond, it doesn't heal the opponent, which circumvents stuff like that, which is cool to think about it. But yeah, this is like traps, but operates on a different axis than traps, because traps, yeah, sure, they have now support with your non-native stuff and drawing specific traps. But this, if you want to run a trap deck that doesn't rely on your opponent basically playing through cards, but just playing naturally into your other stuff and hitting them with cards that could allow them to circumvent traps altogether, this is for you. If you're not into the trap theme, which is not really my likeness, because for me traps always felt like, oh yeah, they still are allowed to draw cards. I like putting junk in my opponent's deck that breaks their draws, which traps don't do.
Yeah.
This doesn't do that either, but at least I put all cards that I want to maybe draw off or cannot tutor now, because, oh yeah, it randomly pulls like, shit, my RCC target now deals 7 damage to me.
Yeah. And that could be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder how saturated this is, but I do feel that this is an interesting idea and an interesting take on sort of the traps thing. And so for that reason, I like it. I just wonder, like I said, how saturated it is in the current card pool. I know Bonk is like, I think announced that he was done with it. And then I tried doing a bunch of stuff, and then I'm like, why am I doing this? The deck's already at a good spot.
Like, this is basically chapter 2 when you don't want to go for the non-native stuff. Like, this works perfectly with everything that is not trap related, because many of the trap cards themselves aren't really good cards on their own.
Yeah.
Besides Santa.
Okay, and our last pick for the day, I remember folks that said this is a short episode. I actually kind of lied. I'm looking at the time now. The Lone Hunter is a 3-drop strength 3/2 Lisboa warrior from Unguia with entrance. This duels an enemy unit. If this can't, duel the opponent instead. I think it was funny. Okay, so here's how I'm going to tell this story. A week ago, Hate Bomb got in, and people were already trying to nerf it for being a better lightning bolt, and then trying to bump it to 3. And then Korn proceeds to go and print this thing that's just a lightning bolt at 3, or very, very similar to a lightning bolt at 3. How many lightning bolts does strength need, folks? No, this is neat. I like this. It's a nice little Lisboa with some entrance. Lisboa from Unguia, which we haven't seen in a hot minute, I don't think, but maybe I'm wrong.
Warrior tribe.
Yeah. Of course, you can also throw this on. I think people have been doing Second Sunrise. Are people still playing around with that deck? Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah,
occasionally.
Grief, give me the breakdown.
Occasionally, you see Second Sunrise decks here and there. They've kind of phased out of popularity, but this is just another card that you actually didn't mention. There are like on-enter duelists, like the wolves that do something like that. This is better because it can hit face if you don't have a target, and it's an entrance, so you can't even reanimate that stuff, which plays very well into the Second Sunrise deck because they can actually reanimate the Elizabeths that died that turn. This will always be a trigger for the Second Sunrise, but also plays post Second Sunrise triggers very well into it, because you can just play this, be a removal, kill something, end of turn, this comes back. If the board is either empty or you still have some stragglers out there, you just bolt something else. There's a recurring bolt in that deck.
Yeah.
And I kind of see this being a very good solid mid-range card. And I like it because it is bolt on a stick. That's not surviving.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to agree with you. This card sitting at 7, so that and Horrific Prophecy I didn't mention that we just did is also sitting at like 8. So they're both doing really good at the moment, and I expect we'll probably see them both in this collection. And be interesting to see what we can do with them. Okay, I am going to halt the share. Fun week, short week, but we managed to make it into almost a full episode for you guys. I hope you guys aren't too disappointed. Send me somebody, I don't know, just pick a guy, just DM me or on Discord and tell me who you think the next guest should be, and then I'll consider that person as a guest. And hopefully we'll have Empty back as well. I mean, we always miss you. I mean, it's just a hole in our heart when you're not here with us, Empty. We never got to go to that beach together. Like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why it is that I'm doing this thing. And keep on playing collective and keep on voting on cards. Bye.
See ya.